I'm sitting here in my living room, the soft hum of the old clock my late husband built marking time's passage. It's a small, cozy house, filled to the brim with memories, each corner telling a story of love, loss, and everything in between. My name's Margaret, but everyone close calls me Maggie. I'm 69 years young, a retired school teacher who's seen her fair share of life's ups and downs. My son, Jack, is a strapping lad of 42. Married for more than a decade, he's got a daughter, Lily, who's as bright and lively as a 10-year-old can be. Then there's Emily, my daughter-in-law. Our relationship's been, well, complicated, to put it mildly. Mom, you sure you don't need anything else done around here? Jack's voice pulls me from my thoughts as he stands in the doorway, concern etched on his face. I shake my head, offering him a smile. I'm all set, sweetheart. This old house is holding up just fine, thanks to your dad's handiwork. He nods, though I can tell he's not entirely convinced. All right, but if you need anything, you call me, okay? Don't bother with Emily, you know how she gets. I sigh. Jack, she's your wife. I don't want to cause any trouble between you two. He shrugs, a bit of frustration showing. Yeah, well, things have been tense. But we'll manage. We always do. The conversation shifts to lighter topics, Jack filling me in on Lily's latest school project and Emily's plans for the weekend. But there's an unspoken tension in the air, a distance that wasn't there before. As Jack leaves, promising to visit again soon, I can't help but feel a pang of loneliness. The house feels emptier without the laughter and chaos that used to accompany my son and his family's visits. The phone rings, shattering the silence. It's Emily, her voice icy as she speaks. Margaret, I need you to watch Lily tomorrow. Something's come up. I bristle at her tone, but my love for Lily wins out. Of course, I'll watch her. She's my granddaughter, after all. Emily's reply is curt, a simple thanks, before she hangs up. I stare at the phone, a mix of sadness and frustration churning within me. What happened to the days when Emily would chat with me about recipes and gift ideas for Jack? When did everything become so transactional? I spend the rest of the day tidying up the house, preparing for Lily's visit. It's in these quiet moments, surrounded by the love and care that went into building this home, that I find my strength. This house, built on memories, stands as a testament to the life my husband and I built together. And no amount of tension or harsh words can take that away from me. Back in the day, life was simpler, or so it seemed. I was still teaching, shaping young minds, while my son Jack was just starting to make his way in the world. Emily entered our lives like a whirlwind, full of ideas and ambition, which I admired, even if we didn't see eye to eye on everything. Mom, I want you to meet Emily, Jack had said, his eyes shining with that look of love I hadn't seen in a long while. I think she's the one. I remember meeting her for the first time. She was outspoken, a stark contrast to the quiet steadiness of my Jack. Pleased to meet you, Mrs. Thompson, she'd said, offering me a firm handshake that somehow felt more like a challenge than a greeting. I smiled, trying to ease the tension. Call me Maggie, dear. Mrs. Thompson makes me feel like I'm still in the classroom. She laughed, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. All right, Maggie it is. Jack's told me so much about you. Those early days were a mix of getting to know Emily and adjusting to the new dynamics she brought into our family. Jack was smitten, and I, despite my reservations, hoped for the best. Emily would often come to me for advice, especially when it came to Jack. Maggie, what does Jack like to eat? I want to surprise him, Emily asked one afternoon, her tone softer, almost vulnerable. I found myself warming to her in those moments. He loves beef stew, the way his dad used to make it. I can show you if you like. And so, we cooked together, a tentative peace forming between us. But it wasn't always easy. Emily had strong opinions, especially about how Jack should be advancing his career, which often led to heated discussions. Jack needs to be more ambitious, Maggie, Emily would say, her frustration evident. He's too comfortable here, too stuck in his ways. I'd bristle at her words, defending my son. Jack's doing just fine. He's building his life, his way. Not everyone needs to chase after money and status. She'd sigh, rolling her eyes. You don't get it. We need more if we're going to make something of ourselves. Despite these clashes, I saw how she pushed Jack, how they grew together. When Jack landed a well-paying job and later started his own business, I couldn't help but feel a grudging respect for Emily's drive. Yet, as their fortunes changed, so did our relationship. The visits became less frequent, the conversations more strained. Emily's requests for my help or advice dwindled until they stopped altogether. I missed my granddaughter terribly in those days. Lily was a bright spark, always eager to learn, to explore. I cherished the moments she'd spend with me, her laughter filling the house with joy. "Why doesn't Grandma come over anymore?" I overheard Lily ask her parents one day, her voice tinged with confusion and sadness. Jack was quick to reassure her. "Grandma's always welcome, sweetheart. We've just been busy, that's all." But Emily's response was cooler, more distant. "Your grandma has her own life, Lily. We can't expect her to be around all the time." I bit my tongue, refusing to let the hurt show. Instead, I focused on the love I had for my family, holding on to the hope that things would improve. It was Lily's 10th birthday, a milestone I'd been looking forward to for months. I had a special gift picked out, a book of fairy tales I knew she'd love, each story carefully chosen to spark that bright imagination of hers. But then, the unexpected happened. I didn't get an invite to the party. Not a call, not a message, nothing. It was as if I'd suddenly become invisible to them. Puzzled and hurt, I picked up the phone and dialed Jack's number. He answered on the second ring, his voice cheerful yet harried. "Hey, Mom. What's up?" "Jack, I was just wondering about Lily's birthday. Is there a party planned?" I tried to keep my voice light, but a note of disappointment must have crept in. There was a pause, then, "What do you mean?" "Emily sent you an invite weeks ago. She said you told her you couldn't make it. Said you had other plans?" My heart sank. "No, Jack, that's not true. I didn't receive anything. I wouldn't miss Lily's birthday for the world." I could hear the confusion in his voice as he replied, "That's weird. I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. I'll talk to Emily and get back to you." But he never did get back to me about it. The next day, through the grapevine of small-town gossip, I found out the party was happening at their house, not out of town as I'd been led to believe. Feeling a mix of anger and sadness, I decided not to confront them about it. Instead, I dropped off the gift at their doorstep early in the morning, hoping Lily would at least know I'd thought of her. A few days after the party, I bumped into Karen, a neighbor, at the grocery store. She was all too eager to spill the details of the party, not realizing I hadn't been there. "Oh, Maggie, it was such a lovely do. Emily outdid herself this time. Shame you couldn't make it, though. Lily kept asking for you." Karen chattered on, unaware of the hurt her words inflicted. I forced a smile, thanking her for the update, and quickly made my excuses to leave. The walk home felt longer than usual, each step heavy with the weight of betrayal. The situation gnawed at me until I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. So, I called Jack again, this time more determined. "Jack, we need to talk about Lily's birthday," I said, cutting straight to the chase. There was a heavy sigh on the other end. "Mom, now's not a good time. We're swamped with orders at work, and Emily's not been feeling great." I persisted. "I understand, but I need to know why I was told the party was somewhere else when it wasn't. Why was I lied to, Jack?" There was a long pause, then Jack's voice, weary and a bit defensive. "Mom, it's just. Emily thought it would be easier this way. She felt the dynamics have been a bit off lately and didn't want any awkwardness at the party." I felt a rush of anger and disbelief. "So, you decided to exclude me? To lie to me? Is that how we're solving problems now?" "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to do. Emily, she's got a way of seeing things, and sometimes it's just easier to go along with it," he tried to explain, sounding exhausted. I was too hurt to argue further. "I see. Well, I hope it was worth it. I hope lying to your mother and excluding her from her granddaughter's birthday felt easier for you." "Mom, please." Jack's voice cracked a little, "It's not like that. But I didn't want to hear any more excuses. I have to go, Jack. We'll talk some other time." Hanging up, I felt a mixture of sadness, anger, and resignation. It was clear that my relationship with Emily, and now perhaps even with Jack, was more fractured than I'd realized. After the birthday mess, things went quiet. Too quiet. My house, cozy as it is, started feeling too big, too empty. That's when I decided to get myself a little company. A small dog, a bundle of energy and love. Named him Buster. The moment I laid eyes on him, I knew he was the one to fill the house with life again. I couldn't wait to tell Lily about Buster. She's always loved animals, and I thought this might just be the thing to get her to visit. Picking up the phone, I dialed their number, heart racing a bit as it rang. "Grandma." Lily's voice, bright and cheerful, filled my ears the moment she picked up. "How are you?" "Doing just fine, love. Guess what? I've got a surprise for you." "A little dog named Buster," I said, unable to keep the excitement from my voice. "Really? A dog? That's awesome. I want to see him. Can I come over?" Her enthusiasm was music to my ears. "Of course, sweetheart. Anytime you want," I replied, feeling a warmth spread through me. Turns out, I didn't have to wait long. That very afternoon, the doorbell rang. There stood Emily, looking as if she'd rather be anywhere else, and Lily, eyes sparkling with excitement. "We can't stay long," Emily announced, barely crossing the threshold. Ignoring the tension, I ushered them into the kitchen, deciding to make the best of it. "Let me get you some tea and cake. Make yourselves at home." As we settled, Emily's eyes roamed, landing on the new oven and the bits of new furniture around the house. "These are new," she remarked, her tone sharp. "Who bought them for you?" "My son did, for my birthday," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. Her face turned a shade redder, anger flashing in her eyes. "You shouldn't be demanding money from him like that," she snapped. Before I could even think of a response, Lily came running in, a scratch visible on her arm. Emily saw it and lost it. "That dog of yours bit my daughter," she accused, voice rising. "He didn't bite me, Mom." I scratched myself outside. Lily tried to explain, but Emily wasn't having any of it. "We're leaving. And we won't be back," Emily declared, dragging Lily away before I could even get a word in. Once they'd left, I felt a mix of anger and sadness. I needed some sense talked into me, so I called my sister, Carol. "Carol, you won't believe what just happened," I started, recounting the whole ordeal. Carol, ever the voice of reason, listened quietly before speaking. "Maggie, don't let it get to you. It's clear as day that dog didn't bite anyone. Emily's just looking for an excuse. But Jack won't even answer my calls now, and neither will they," I said, feeling defeated. "Give it time, Maggie. They'll come around. And if they don't, well, you've got Buster and me. We're your family too, you know," Carol replied, her voice firm yet comforting. She was right, of course. Buster wagged his tail, looking up at me with those big, loving eyes. No words needed. He was here, and so was Carol. Maybe that was enough family for now. "Thanks, Carol. I needed that," I said, feeling a bit better. "Want to come over and meet Buster?" "I thought you'd never ask." "I'll be right over," she replied, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Hanging up, I looked down at Buster, who seemed to sense my mood had lifted. "Looks like it's just you and me, kid. And Carol, when she gets here. We're gonna be just fine." A year. A whole year without a word, without seeing their faces. The silence was deafening, the loneliness, a constant companion alongside Buster. Then, life threw another curveball, pneumonia. It hit me like a freight train, landing me in the hospital before I even knew what was happening. Carol, bless her, was by my side every day, worry etched deep in her brows. Lying there, hooked up to machines that beeped and hummed, I felt the weight of the year's silence heavier than ever. "Carol, can you call Jack for me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. It was a long shot, but I had to try. She hesitated, knowing all too well the silence that had filled the void between us. But she nodded, pulling out her phone and dialing Jack's number. I listened, holding my breath, as she spoke. "Jack, it's Carol. Your mom's in the hospital. She's very sick." "Yes, pneumonia. She's asking for you." The pause that followed felt like an eternity. Then, I heard him, his voice distant but clear. "I'll come now." True to his word, Jack arrived at the hospital, a storm of emotions playing across his face. He approached my bed, taking my hand in his, eyes brimming with unshed tears. "Mom, I'm so sorry," I should have been here. He started, his voice breaking. I've been such a fool. I could barely speak, my illness and the emotion of the moment rendering me weak. Why, Jack? Why did you believe that, about Buster? He looked away, shame coloring his features. Emily told me, showed me a scratch on Lily's arm. Said Buster attacked her. I was angry, hurt. I thought I don't know. Listening to him, it was clear how deeply the lie had cut, driving a wedge between us. Jack, you know Buster. He wouldn't hurt a fly. I know now, Mom. I saw him, he's gentle. Emily, she lied to me. I'm so sorry. I should have known better. He admitted, his voice laced with regret. The admission, the apology, it was bittersweet. My heart ached for the lost time, for the pain we'd both endured because of a lie. Jack, it's okay. We're here now. That's what matters, I said, squeezing his hand, offering forgiveness, because holding on to anger would only prolong the pain. He nodded, wiping away a tear. I'm going to make this right, Mom. I promise. Hearing those words, feeling his hand in mine, I believed him. Maybe this was the start of mending what had been broken, of healing not just my body, but our family too. Things were just starting to look up when out of nowhere, trouble came knocking again. This time, it wore a suit and called itself a lawyer, claiming to represent Jack. The voice on the phone was all business, saying he needed me to sign some documents because Jack was abroad and in a bind. Something about the whole thing smelled fishy to me. First thing I did was try calling Jack, but wouldn't you know it, his phone was as good as a brick. No answer. That's when I got that sinking feeling in my gut. I rang up Carol, told her to come over quick. Something's not right, I told her, pacing the floor until she showed up. When the lawyer showed up, all smiles and handshakes, I knew I had to play it smart. He pushed a stack of papers towards me, saying it was all just formalities, that Jack needed this done pronto. I'd like a minute to read these, if you don't mind, I said, trying to buy some time. Oh, there's no need to worry. It's all straightforward, he assured me, but I wasn't buying what he was selling. I needed Carol to get a look at these documents without him hovering, so I suggested a little stroll in the garden. Let's get some fresh air, then I'll sign, I proposed. To my surprise, he agreed. While we were outside, Carol was inside, snapping pictures of the documents with her phone. Turns out, those papers were nothing short of a nightmare. They were trying to get me to sell my house for peanuts and ship off to a nursing home, claiming I was too sick to take care of myself. Before I could process it all, Emily stormed in, red-faced and yelling like a banshee. Just sign the damn papers, Margaret. Don't make this harder than it has to be. I stood my ground, refusing to be bullied. I'm not signing anything until I talk to Jack, I said firmly. That's when I called the police. Emily was livid, spewing lies about me having dementia, trying to paint me as some doddering old fool. The police showed up, and Emily switched gears, playing the concerned family member. But we had proof. I showed them the audio recording of the lawyer's spiel, and Carol showed them the photos she'd taken of the documents. Emily's tune changed real quick, then. The police took her in for questioning, and the whole house of cards she'd been building came tumbling down. After the fiasco with the lawyer and Emily's plot being foiled, things started moving quickly. The police had enough evidence to start unraveling the tangled web of lies that had been spun around me. But the real turning point came when Jack finally got back from his trip abroad. He was shocked to learn about the chaos that had unfolded in his absence. Jack came straight to my house, a mix of worry and anger clouding his face. Mom, I just landed and heard about what happened. Can you fill me in on everything? I sighed, looking at my son, seeing the confusion and hurt in his eyes. Jack, it's been a mess. That lawyer, the one Emily hired, tried to trick me into signing away the house. And if it weren't for your Aunt Carol, I might have fallen for it. Jack's face turned red with anger. That's unbelievable. Emily told me she was just taking care of some family business while I was gone. I had no idea she was plotting something like this. Carol, who had been a rock throughout this ordeal, chimed in. We caught everything on tape, Jack. And I took pictures of the documents they tried to get Maggie to sign. It's clear as day what their intentions were. Jack shook his head in disbelief. I can't believe she'd go this far. To think, she used our daughter to further her lie. I'm going to confront Emily about this. She needs to explain herself. The confrontation between Jack and Emily was inevitable. He left our house, determined to get to the bottom of things. When he returned, he was alone, his expression somber. Mom, Emily, she admitted to everything. Said she felt cornered, that she didn't know what else to do. I told her it's over. We're getting a divorce. I can't be with someone who'd put my own mother through something like this. Hearing Jack's words, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. Relief that the truth was finally out, but sorrow for the pain my son was going through. Jack, I'm so sorry it's come to this. But I'm proud of you for standing up for what's right. Jack nodded, pulling me into a hug. I should have listened to you sooner, Mom. I'm just glad you're okay. In the days that followed, we worked on healing the rifts that had formed. Jack was a frequent visitor, often bringing Lily along, who was overjoyed to spend time with Buster and me. The ordeal had brought us closer, reminding us of the importance of family and truth. After the storm comes the calm. That's how it felt once everything with Emily was settled. Jack got the divorce finalized, and though it was a tough period for him and Lily, they started to find their rhythm again. Life at the house felt fuller, happier with their frequent visits. It was like we were all breathing a bit easier, ready to welcome whatever came next with open arms. One sunny afternoon, as I watched Jack and Lily playing with Buster in the garden, I realized how much things had changed. Jack walked over, settling down beside me with a sigh. Mom, I've been thinking, he started, watching Lily throw a ball for Buster. I want to start fresh, maybe even move closer to you. What do you think? I smiled, the idea warming my heart. I think that's a wonderful idea. Having you and Lily nearby would be a dream come true. Lily ran over, breathless and laughing. Grandma, did you see how fast Buster is? Her eyes sparkled with joy, so much like her father's. I sure did, sweetheart. He's got quite the sprint on him, I replied, hugging her close. As we sat there, chatting about school, friends, and all the little things in between, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of gratitude. The ordeal we'd gone through had somehow brought us closer, strengthening the bond between us. Later that week, Carol dropped by for her usual visit. Over cups of tea, we reflected on the past few months. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, our lives found a new normal. Jack and Lily did move closer, just a few streets away, making spontaneous visits a regular occurrence. The laughter and love that filled my home were a balm to my soul, healing old wounds and bridging any gaps that had formed. One evening, as we all gathered for dinner, Jack raised his glass in a toast. To new beginnings, to family, and to a future filled with love and laughter. We've come through the storm, and now it's time to enjoy the sunshine. We all echoed his sentiment, clinking glasses and sharing smiles. It was a simple moment, but it held the weight of everything we'd endured and overcome together.